You have found Firebrds Weekly, a show about everything Firebirds. Thank you for stopping by. Game analysis, highlights, stats and trends. Firebirds Weekly, beyond the headlines. Tonight's guest is Shawn Lockett. Here are your hosts, Adam Samrov and Chris Sipperly.
Good evening. Welcome to the latest edition of Firebirds Weekly. I'm one of the co-hosts, Chris Sipperly, and my co-host here with us tonight is Adam Samrov, and tonight's guest is Shawn Lockett. With that, Adam, I hand it off to you.
We have. Do you like our production values? That's all Chris.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So doing some research for this episode, you're probably the closest that the Albany Firebirds have to a local. Being from Springfield Central in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Looking up your career, you killed it for Springfield High. Just talk about, how you got into football and, kind of those early influences for you in the game.
Yeah. Well, first I want to thank you both for having me on tonight. It's truly a blessing to, meet up with Chris and finally, get to sit down with him and get this side of, the football side of things out. But I started playing football at the age of 8. My dad, shout out to him. He actually was the reason I even got started playing football. My first ever competitive sport was synchronized swimming for the Springfield Sharks. And as you can imagine,
That's a great name, man.
That did not last long. So my dad came to me one afternoon, ironically playing catch with the football in the backyard with some of my friends. And he was like, hey, what about organized football? And, it kind of took off from there. I started my Pee Wee career out in Wilbraham, Massachusetts for the Wilbraham Falcons. Had tons of great coaches, Frank Ott, Bruce Strange, and tons of other great coaches. One coach that stands out in particular, the late great Stephen Carpels. He's pretty much the reason why I actually stayed with football. I had a season-ending injury my 8th grade season, and I was a kid who actually was an out-of-town kid who played in Wilbraham. I grew up in Springfield on the borderline of Wilbraham and Springfield. Ended up going to play in Wilbraham, so I was one of the only kids that didn't live in the town of Wilbraham. He was one of the main guys, if not the main guy, when he was an assistant, then a head coach, who was always making sure that I was good in school, character-wise, and just, making sure I was doing what I had to do at home. And that 8th grade season, I ended up having a season-ending injury after our first game. And he just, every week he'd check in with me, how I'm feeling, but then how were my grades? How was I doing? And he actually was, he made a bet with my dad that if he can come back before the end of the season, he'll play on senior day. And so I actually got in, made a few tackles and whatnot. But something about our interactions were life-changing for me. I never had someone outside of my family really care as much as he did about my grades and just about my character development as a young man. So he definitely left a mark on me. Tragically passed away a few months later, and that really took a huge toll on me. But I mean, he's the reason why I wear 66. That was the number I was given as a Pee Wee. I actually believe it was him who gave me the number, if not someone did. But kind of just started my career there, and I was a gentle giant, and my dad, talking to the other coaches who were either fathers or just volunteers, they were like, he's got to turn on his switch, and once he does, he'll take off from there. And thank God it did, and here we are.
Yeah. So I this year I started a new job. I'm teaching in the Mount Anthony district in Vermont.
Okay.
In 8th grade, and that 8th grade season for a lot of kids is like that turning point. Like, and to have somebody like a coach like that, okay, like, hey, the season isn't turning out the way you wanted because of an injury, but we know I know that there's big things for you, so let's make sure that you're getting your schoolwork done. Making sure you're staying out of trouble in school. Just doing the right things, and that can be a great turning point. So that's a great, to hear that is awesome. Yeah,
absolutely.
Now,
absolutely.
When they said, once he flips that switch, what's flipped that switch for you?
So for me, I played both sides of the ball. I played defense and offensive line, and thankfully enough, I also had some speed behind all this size and mass. And so there would be times where I'd be making plays, and I would gently put a running back down or gently put a quarterback down. I'd help them up. And once I got older, I kind of really understood. I started to understand how the game worked and leverage and different things like that. My switch was just that violence of the game. Obviously, I'm always going to be a team first guy. So if I do get a sack or if I do make a big tackle, depending on the situation, I may or may not help up the person that's receiving this huge hit.
Sure.
But,
yeah. No, definitely. Sportsmanship is has to be woven in there under certain circumstances for sure.
Correct. Yes. So my switch was just honestly just playing nasty and playing big, and it was funny enough later on in life when I became a little bit older. I know a lot of the coaches who then moved on to high school coaching. When I got into high school, they would talk to me after the season. Actually, after I graduated, and they were like, "Man, when we'd have the game plan against you, it would be, how are we going to block this guy?" We ran a traditional 3-4 in high school. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but we ran a 3-4, and growing up, Vince Wilfork was my guy. I didn't know him, Casey Hampton, Sean Rogers. I know he played on the Lions for a little bit. These are some massive men. And I would literally go home after practice. And, when YouTube first came out, I would go to YouTube and watch these guys. And me being a Steelers fan, I got to watch Casey Hampton almost every Sunday just take up and clog the hole. And obviously being from Massachusetts, watching Vince Wilfork, these were just guys that turned on that switch, took on double teams, triple teams. And so that for me was my switch finally turning. And then, like I said, once I got into high school, it kind of excelled from there.
And all those guys that those guys you mentioned, Hampton and Wilfork and that, those were those anchors on those 3-4 defenses that those teams ran at that time.
Well, without those guys, they don't have any success. Period. They just don't.
Yeah, correct.
So 3-time All-State offensive lineman at Springfield. Talk about your journey after. I'm sure obviously the idea was like, hey, I want to play in college. I want to play at the next level. Tell me about that process of recruiting and going through that process, and then end up going to or staying kind of home and going to American.
So for me, my story is a little, it's a little bittersweet for me, to be honest. So I'll give the short version. So I was a little bit of an outcast going to Springfield Central High School. Obviously playing in Wilbraham, very culture shocked there, and then when I went to Springfield Central, another culture shock there. So I was looked at to be, one of the, main kids. As a matter of fact, you come in for freshman night or whatever the night is, and the football team's right there when you walk through the door, and you've got all these upperclassmen like they're picking kids out of the crowd that are coming through the door. And I came through with my mom, and they're like, "You don't got to worry about the tour. You're coming to the football room." And as soon as I walked in, we're walking in the room, and I hear the name of Vladimir Brower, and I'm like, who the heck is this? And I was a huge God of Wars guy growing up. So I'm thinking it's going to be this huge Viking looking guy. And it's this 6'6", black bald guy, and that was our head coach, Coach Brower. So I was super shocked about what the heck was I going to get myself into. And so my first week of practice on the freshman team, you could tell I kind of stood apart from everyone else. It was actually after that game on the freshman squad that Coach Brower pulled me to the side and said, "Hey, myself and other coaching staff are looking to move you to the varsity. So what do you think about that?" And I was like, I got to tell my dad. I ran home after practice, told my dad, and after that, the story's written. And so for me, one thing that I will say is, and I tell the kids now is grades are so important. I wish I had taken more pride in the classroom than I did the field. Unfortunately, my inability to handle business in the classroom left me limited. A lot of the coaches that came in, obviously I had all the Northeast, I had the Boston colleges, I had the UConns, the UMass, etc., that were very much interested in me as a football player and as a young man. But unfortunately, the academic side of me was not up to par. I can remember one vivid memory where my last ever visit or interaction with the college coach before making the decision to, go to AIC, was the offensive line coach at Maryland. He came. He's no longer there, but he came. He literally came to Springfield for just to see me. He pulled me out of a science class. We went into another room. He looked at my GPA and he started to shake his head and he goes, "Man, what did I get on a plane for?" Or I'm paraphrasing, but pretty much saying, "What did I come here for?"
Yeah, I follow you.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
when I heard that, I was crushed, and that was my senior year. And I, looking back now, I wish I could have knocked myself over the head and say, get to business. And so, thankfully, I had other opportunities to go postgraduate years, or post or prep school, but ended up being blessed with an opportunity to go get a partial scholarship to AIC. Which is, seemingly enough at that time in that era at AIC was pretty much the end of the golden era for anyone that knows about the NE10 and AIC's rich tradition of winning. I was blessed enough to be around a great group of upperclassmen who taught us the way to win. And, Coach Wilkins, great coach, one of my favorites, my personal career. He's an old school guy, but he's, he was very passionate about molding and building young men, not just to be football players, but to go graduate. And, that was something that I was, priding myself on when I got to college. I'll get the fun out of the way freshman year, but sooner or later I got to, kickstart this whole classroom thing. And so that was my whole kind of recruiting thing. My younger cousin, shout out to him. I was on him, as soon as he started to excel. I said, listen, do not be me, focus on the classroom. And after that, the sky was the limit for him. He ended up, going off to Syracuse to play and have a good career. So that was kind of like my journey is the recruiting. It was bittersweet, but like I said, definitely a lot of life lessons throughout that process.
Well, that's the important thing is the one thing about you that I don't know you on a personal level, but you're very relatable, and I think people respect you pretty quickly. And anytime you can pass down any life knowledge, people listen. So
yeah.
I think it's important that you continue to do that and hopefully help others be better.
Absolutely.
And especially and we'll get into the follow my steps, having that and being a part of that organization, and we'll get into it and we can talk about more about that as we go. But having that kind of an organization where you can get impressionable young men, young people, and be able to give them life lessons, that can say, if you save one and change one's trajectory, you've done a service.
Absolutely.
So then the AIC thing goes, and then the scholarship thing changes, and so you end up not being there. Tell me about going into the Arena League. Looked it up. Talk about a try you did in at Lehigh Valley and kind of got in it that way. Tell me a little bit about that process of jumping into the Arena League.
So this is the part of the story of my life where I kind of titled it "Growing Up Super Fast." So as you said, scholarship opportunities were limited at that time at AIC, so I was unable to continue my education and my athletic career there. So I ended up actually working at the local county jail here in Ludlow, Mass, for a few years. And meanwhile, I said, you know what? I'm only 19. I still want to go to the NFL. So at this time, there was no spring leagues. There was no nothing at that time as I can remember. So I stumbled across a website called Euro Players. And so ended up signing up for Euro Players. It was free at that time. Didn't have an agent, whatever. I was betting on myself. And I saw a lot of these offers to go overseas and whatnot. Again, I'm 19, so I don't know much. I'm going to skip around this beginning part. So I ended up playing semi-pro for 2 years for at that time, I think the Pioneer Valley Knights. And that's was a local team here in Springfield. So ended up playing for them, had some film from YouTube or whatever. And I was adamant. I told the coach at the time, I said, listen, the only way I'm going to play is if I get filmed, because I don't plan on being a Pioneer Valley Knight for 10 years. Right. And so thankfully they were able to, comprise some film for me, and ended up sending it off to a bunch of coaches. Bob Kohler, shout out to Coach Kohler in Lehigh Valley. He reached out to me via email. He reached out and let me know that there was going to be a last minute open tryout for the maybe 5 spots that they were going to be having for training camp. And then he goes, okay, cool. And I had no idea. I was just super excited. And he goes, hey, by the way, you do know it's arena football. And I was like, it's what? So we hung up the conversation. I went on YouTube and maybe watched 3 hours of arena football, just figuring out what was going on. Me and my dad and one of my friends at the time, we drove down to Allentown, Pennsylvania, what we call the rink, which was our practice facility at that, for the future reference, the rink, and ended up killing my tryout. Another coach that I put on my pedestal of coaches that I've ever had, Ken Miller, my offensive line coach, he ended up signing me that night. And then about 14 days later, I tragically lost my mom to colon cancer. So it was like I had to literally process that.
Yeah, it's a lot, man.
6 hours later, I had to be checking in at the team hotel for training camp for my first pro experience. So that's why I titled it kind of Growing Up Fast. And so I met with the owner, the ownership group, and Coach Thompson of the Lehigh Valley Steelhawks, kind of let them know what was going on personally. And then I said, hey, it's not going to affect what I'm doing professionally. And so I had to really grow up. And the funny part, I guess you could say, about that rookie season, I was 20. So we had about maybe 3 games before I turned 21. So our post-game parties I couldn't go to because I was like 21. So I had to celebrate in the locker rooms, if you will, if we won, and kind of go back to the apartments and wait for everybody else to get back. So that was kind of funny until I was 21. So, but no, I mean, like I said, my career in the beginning was a rough one. I had to adjust to the game. It was super quick, super fast. I was surrounded by a great, group of veterans there. Larry Ford and Chris Alvarez and Jacob Jablonski, even Warren Smith Jr. Guys like that who've been around or who are a little bit older in their careers as far as football is concerned, and were able to help me navigate and then kind of help me to take the keys from there and make this career of what it's been.
How did you, just as someone who had played outdoor football 11 on 11 your entire life, how did you kind of adjust? And obviously it's something you would have had to do really fast.
Yeah. Well, at first I came in as a defensive lineman, specifically playing nose guard. And I was lucky enough and blessed enough to have Justin Lawrence, who was literally up the street playing for the Philly Soul at the time, number 99. So I watched tons of his film, and I said, if I can at least mimic what he does, I'll be okay. And I learned very quickly that if you're not your true position in arena football, you will get exposed quickly. And so I had to adjust quickly. And thankfully, Coach Miller, sat me down before they were getting ready to cut me. And he goes, I'm going to do something. He called me baby boy. He still does to this day. He goes, baby boy, I'm going to do something for you. I'm going to switch you back to O-line, and maybe you can turn out to be a great player. And sure enough, that move actually definitely helped my career. Switching back to the offensive line was just, it's what I'm used to. You know what I mean? It's you're going forward, you're going backwards, you're going side to side. And so that for me was easy. And that's kind of like where you kind of just saw the building blocks started to assemble themselves, and so on and so forth from there.
I have a question that's sort of out of sequence here in terms of your story. But being, going from, to and from Ironman rules, did you enjoy that? Or do you think it's a blessing it's kind of flipping back to the other way again?
To be honest, I personally, I worked super hard in the, almost 10 years I've been playing. I've worked super hard to be the best offensive lineman / center I could possibly be. And so I think where the game is going now, even outdoors, I believe that a lot of these younger gentlemen that are going to come through the arena, ranks are going to see that they're going to bet on themselves at whatever position they want to be at in the NFL, the CFL, etc. And so I think, the Iron Man looks better for, maybe defensive backs or the smaller guys. But I think us bigger guys, we're so wired now where we are, we're paying tons of money, or we are investing tons of time and effort to finding a specialized offensive line guru or consultant to help us with our mechanics, our mental aspect, and our physicality. And so I think, the Iron Man game for me, personally speaking, was not my cup of tea. I think it was, obviously a smart business move to have for the league to get jump started again. But, I think again, will I think Iron Man may, make a way back and be successful? I don't know. I just think, like I said, I think it looks better and it looks a little bit more clean for the skinnier guys to, handle that portion of it and let us big guys beat each other up. So.
No, I tend to agree with you. I mean, the game, like anything else, things evolve. The game doesn't stay the same forever, and if you don't change, then you're going to be the past. So
Correct.
You got to see where the the tide takes you, so to speak.
Correct.
And I wanted to talk about, looking up, seeing that you were with Lehigh Valley, and then you were the umpire, and then the Soul for a little bit, the Rough Ride. You've kind of been all around in the last 10 years, and then I saw that you joined the IFL with the Mass Pirates. What was that like? Just kind of being a lot close to home. Family could see you and that kind of thing. What was that experience like?
So, for the record, I want to make this clear too. So, I know a lot of people think, "Oh, you've retired tons of times." So, in 21, we won the championship, and names that will not be said. We had conversations of me returning to the Empire again to go make another championship run, and things didn't go that way with ownership and negotiating and whatnot. So, I was now a free agent, and so at that time, I was had the opportunity to finally be considered to be one of the top, offensive linemen, and I think across indoor football, no matter what league. And so at that time, I saw that Mass also won a championship, and their center had great success and went on to bigger and better things. And so I knew that spot was vacant. And so I reached out, and we had great conversations, me and the ownership group over there with the team's family, great family. And we got a deal done, and I became a part of the Mass Pirates. And so for me, that was also bittersweet because again, Albany's an hour away from Springfield, give or take, and now Worcester at the time was 45 minutes. So I'm like, this is you can't beat this. I mean, hopefully go win another championship in your backyard and allow my family to really come see me, really come support.
That's big.
Yeah. And so that was the whole, idea behind that. Obviously the IFL was a little bit different from what I was used to. Obviously being in the gun and, obviously being with, actual running backs and different schematics as far as how offenses run in the IFL. So
double high.
Yeah. So I learned a lot and I enjoyed my experience. I did definitely said, if I were to continue to play, I would definitely not mind maybe going back to an IFL, setting. Once I, hopefully hoist another championship with the, Albany Firebrds. But again, like I said, my time in the IFL was an enjoyed one for sure.
And then coming from what I saw, it's like you retire, then you unretire, then you retire, then you kind of decide, okay, I'm going to go through it again. Talk about just coming back this year and trying to bring another championship back to Albany.
So the idea for 24 was, Coach Ware was, championship or bust. And so I was bought in from day one. Coach Ware, he has made a huge impression on me since I met him in 21. Very, very personable man, very much so a caring man, and very much so an intelligent man when it comes to the game of football. And so me being a guy who's a film junkie and a whiteboard guy myself, just the way he likes to win and how he likes to dissect defenses and how he likes to practice and just how he likes to win is all the things that line up with me as a player. And so, when he got the nod that Albany football was coming back to the Capitol and then he was going to be at the helms, I was like, listen, if you need a center, I'm on my way to the gym right now. And sure enough, we had a great conversation, and sure enough, I was on my way to the gym. And so that was the goal for 24, to just hoist another championship. Again, with the roster that man can put together is, like no other. And so we, obviously fell short and left 5 points on what seemingly enough was one of the most bizarre venues I've ever played in at the mall. But, going home after that game and, obviously, notifying everybody, the media outlets and the team that, I was done, I sat down and, was able to watch that game. And I don't think I've been able to, make it to the second quarter yet.
I understand exactly where you're coming from. I haven't watched a few of our games for the same reason.
Yeah. And so when I think back, it's like, man, leaving 5 points on that field really just left a bad taste in my mouth. And so, I think the goal this year is to literally leave no doubt that, Albany football is the best brand of indoor football that there's been. in the last decade. And again, I've fallen in love with the city of Albany, the fan base, just having so much pride in wearing those, that logo, the gear, and just being able to walk around and represent the team. It's about business this time, how it always has been, but it's unfinished business. I think this year of giving our fan base what they deserve is another championship, raising another banner. And obviously just doing it for the guys that have come before me. I've played with some great guys, the late, great Mo Ruffins and Ryan Cave and Hayworth Hicks and Tommy Grady and, guys like that, Terrence Moore, just guys who I've played with, from the inception of the AFL, arena football, the NAL, and et cetera, just to be a part of, history again. And then honestly going out on that high horse, in the sunset was, the plan for 24, but 25, I think we have a better chance to do it this time.
What's next for you after football? What's, and again, we'll talk about it here next about, some of your charity work and some of the things that you do, in terms of mentoring and things like that. What's next for you after football is over?
Well, now being a father, and being a man of faith, my biggest thing is, leaving whatever I'm, putting my hands to, how can I leave it better than I was, given it to. So being a dad, number one, has been awesome. So obviously preparing my knees, my back, and everything else for whatever he's got going on when he's ready to rip and run. And I just love, like I said, giving back to my community. I consider myself to be one of the, unicorns in our area to at least make it further than most, and just, be able to share to these young men and women, that if you, have the giftings and abilities, the God-giving ability to play a sport, go as far as you can and go as long as you can. And so that's my goal. I, love the position of offensive lineman, being an offensive lineman, thinking like an offensive lineman, having that bond that you have. I've played on some great offensive lines, high school, college, professional, etc. There's nothing like us. It's a group of men who have to come together to defend one man and one ball. And so when you can do that successfully and build a bond like that, it's like no other. And so my biggest thing is to, kind of channel my efforts as a player to a coach. And so I took some time off from coaching, obviously, when I welcomed my son to the world. And so looking to get back into that in the fall somewhere. And like I said, just build these young men up in my community that obviously play offensive line to, go further than I did, believe in themselves, believe in what they do, believe in, the position, and obviously then go off to their high schools and their colleges to go, be successful there. But biggest thing is just to really show them that it's not just the sport, but it's also off the field, carrying yourself like a young man, especially in my area where there's, kids that look like me, where there's black and brown kids who, don't have the resources that I may not have had or that I, had when I was growing up, kind of just showing them that, kind of got to defeat the odds, you kind of can't feel sorry for yourself and you got to bet on yourself and walk into rooms and shake hands and make eye contact and do what you have to do. And beyond sports, you gotta leave a mark in society that's, saying that's a good one right there. So
yeah. I just want to say for the record, as a former offensive lineman, and Chris can attest, this is an offensive lineman friendly podcast. Just making sure that we got that out there. So to kind of finish off, and I appreciate, the time tonight. Talk about Follow My Steps and how you got involved with that program and, what exactly it is and, what you do to bring things to people in the community.
So Follow My Steps was created by my good friend Shawn Sanders. He's our president and founder of our foundation. I came home from a season and I think it was right around 2019. I was, home and he pitched this idea of a mentorship. And I was, before he could even get the sentence, I was like, yes. And I knew that 17-year-old Shawn needed a mentor and never had one. Yes, he had coaches. Yes, he had a father. Yes, he had older male cousins or, male, role models, but he didn't have a mentor. And so when I heard about this idea, I jumped all over it. And our biggest goal is to show kids that do have a plan after high school, that your plan is achievable and we're going to help you and your family to achieve those goals. And so what we do is we provide services to kids who would aspire to go to 2-year, 4-year schools, who don't want to go to college and just want to go to work, who want to join the armed forces, who just don't really know exactly how to fill out FAFSA forms. Some kids who have single moms, some kids who are in foster care, some kids who never heard about mental health, some kids who have never heard about financial literacy, some kids who have never tied a tie. You know, we're doing things for these young men and women in our community to just better them, to encourage them, and to empower them.
Well, that's huge. That's huge because, like,
Yeah.
I mean, again, we don't. I mean, doing what we've done in the past, and it's not the same by any stretch. But we've had some younger kids that have come through, you know, the Storm program, we'll say.
Yeah.
There are certain guys that are young, and when I say young, anywhere from 18 to 21, that just don't know how to take that first step.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do. They don't know how to get their life started. So having somebody out there just to be like, hey, it's okay to fail. Hey, it's okay to take a chance. Now's the time to do that.
Absolutely.
And not be paralyzed by failure, because failure isn't forever, especially when you're 19.
I mean, my biggest testament is, like I said, I'll speak about him again, but my younger cousin, Terry, I mean, that kid has faced so much adversity in his life personally that, I'm super proud of him, of just being able to defy the odds and not worry about the adversity around him. But I mean, he's been one of the main reasons why, those long nights in the gym or those extra miles on the track or whatever, or, just me, me being strict on my diet, just because I want to just show him the blueprint, of how it is to just to go get what you want. And, obviously I've said in other, interviews that, obviously I didn't have the opportunity to go play in the NFL, but, what I've done in my career, that was my NFL. And so I treated every off season, in season, whatever it was, as if I was going to get that call. And so
wherever you are. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Correct. And so I take that same type of mentality and I put it into, the workforce. And I try to implement anytime I have conversations with our youth in our program, this kind of reword it in that sense of, a working force or just, school or whatever it may be, that you just got to go work hard. That it really does pay off, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's an awesome program. I was doing some research on it, and it seems like it's a great way to help kids, like you said, that might not have the resources, to help them get to that level. So, unless you have something else, I think again, appreciate your time, and we definitely want to talk to you before when we get closer to camp and go from there. So again, Shawn, thank you for your time, and it was nice to talk to you tonight.
I just got one question for you, Shawn.
Yeah.
Anybody comes on here, I'm gonna ask the same question. In terms of player standpoint, what makes Albany home for you? What stands out to you in terms of Albany? What makes Albany a football town? Like, what makes it different?
Whew, getting chills thinking about it. Well, Albany and Lehigh Valley, they have my heart. One, because Lehigh Valley is where I started my career, and then Albany is where I won my championship. Albany, to me, it just defines a football town. When we came in 2018, we were the only attraction. There was nothing else. There was no Spartans. There's no platoons. There was nothing. There was nothing at all out there. And so there was no fire wolves. There was nothing out there. And so the love that we got from that fan base was overwhelming in a positive way, because they were just supportive. I mean, they hadn't had football in a long time. The crowd,
10 years almost.
the amount of fan base love that we got at every game. Even, I think we lost our first game against the Soul, and just seeing those faces after we lost. Can you sign up? Can you sign this? Can you take this picture? It was just like, oh wow, I could get used to this. And again, I've played in other places that do that, but there's just something about Albany that I love. But the main thing that I'll say is, this past year when we had the adopted player that the fans did, I have never experienced that in my entire life. And I was blessed to just, have people that, have families, have real life, struggles going on, or just things going on. They took the time out to, just show a little bit of love and appreciation for what we do. We go out there, we beat our bodies up, and we try to put on a great show for these fans. And so the fact that they were able to, think about us and, make good meals or, put in toiletries or whatever the case may be. Just I'm thinking about you. I know that definitely helped a lot of guys who are not obviously have the luxury like me to be close to home to see their family and whatnot. But just to know that we're on the road and our fans back home are not only watching, but they took care of us. It's just a testament of, just of what happens. And like I said, only God could have wrote something like this for me to experience. And I'm truly, truly blessed and honored to, wear the colors of the Firebirds and represent this community. And like I said, whatever I can do outside of football to, add to that, I'm all for it and I'm all game. So.
Yeah. Thanks again, Shawn. It was a pleasure. Hopefully we'll talk to you again during the season and just have a great year, man. We'll look forward to seeing you in that 66.
Yes, I appreciate you guys. God bless. I appreciate you. Go Firebirds.